On our planet, there seems to be an infinite number of beautiful places one can visit, with an equal number of spectacular things to admire. It requires nothing more than a curiosity to observe what is all around you. The miracle of nature manifests in countless ways, from breathtaking vistas to the simple movements of a common heifer. The purpose of this program is to present you with the extraordinary diversity of our miraculous blue planet so that you can discover these things for yourself. Today, we will start our adventure in Svalbard, and from there, we will head off to explore the icy wasteland of the Arctic. Later in the program, we will discover the splendor of Canadian nature and two of its French-speaking regions. In Quebec, 100 kilometers inland on the most southerly fjord in the Northern Hemisphere, we will watch the low tides set. In Alberta, we will seek to comprehend the sheer size of the Saskatchewan River and the majestic Rocky Mountains. But we begin with the winter wonderland that awaits us. It's off to the North Pole. Welcome to a very icy expedition. We have in store for you a truly unspoiled part of our planet. Today's pilgrimage will take us all the way to the North Pole. Even the geographically challenged among us are most likely aware of the location of the North Pole. To put it simply, the North Pole is the spot where the Earth's axis cuts through the top of the planet's surface. Should we look upon it from a bird's perspective, there is no better place to view the Earth's rotation on its own axis. The Arctic, the kingdom of ice and silence. No other place in the world can offer both in greater abundance. The Arctic is not a continent. Simply put, it is a giant slab of ice in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. This massive iceberg is constantly moving. It is what causes the Earth to rotate around its axis and what creates currents in the world's coldest sea. The polar explorer, therefore, must count on this drifting, a rather peculiar phenomenon whereby even as you are standing still, you are actually traveling. Most of the adventurers who decide to take on the North Pole do so by starting off from the Norwegian islands of Svalbard. Maps devoted to the region outside the polar circle have identified all settlements where at least 2 hunters dwell. The maps even name a capital for Svalbard. Longyearbyen has some 1,200 inhabitants. This population represents the vast majority that live on all the Svalbard Islands. The town lies on the island of Spitsbergen. It was founded in 1906 by the American John Monroe Longyear, who was the representative of a coal mining company. Today, the silent and snow-covered mining yards are simply a reminder of times long since past. An altogether different sort of a silence can be found in the local church. What you see here is the church located at the northernmost point on the planet. And therefore, that makes Father Canston the priest that serves his congregation at the northernmost point on the planet. You can attend his service before taking off for the North Pole, and that may just be a very good idea. Attending the sermon is a matter of choice. Using the Borneo station is not. Like it or not, you will have to stop over at the Borneo station in your pursuit of the furthermost place in this world. It's a bit frustrating because you won't ever find the Borneo station at the same spot. It keeps on moving its position as a result of the drifting we spoke of earlier. And, to make matters more confusing, the station ceases to exist altogether in the spring. This is because the ice is not thick enough for planes to land there, and the following year, it may be set up in yet an entirely different location that is deemed satisfactory. It is so cold here that you have to keep moving at all times. Should you stop, you may possibly freeze immediately. What you see here are people participating in an annual marathon. Rich and spoiled daredevils can partake in 5 9-kilometer circuits in unbelievably cold and slippery conditions. Only the good Lord knows what makes them do it. To participate in the most northern marathon in the world is not only utter madness, but it also happens to be a very costly hobby. For this marathon, you must pay the most expensive starting fee in the world. Most visitors prefer the multiple-day martyrdom of traveling over the most northern iceberg with the aim of reaching the 90-degree 0 minutes 0 seconds point, called 00, the North Pole, over the course of this seemingly pointless marathon. It is important to make use of the 6 weeks in March and April when it is possible to reach the North Pole. It's a time when the ice has not yet begun to melt and when the 24-hour polar day forestalls the unbearable frost of the polar night from invading. Do keep in mind that we are mere spectators of nature's grandiose show. During polar summer, the sun never sets beyond the horizon above the polar circle. The sun resembles a tennis ball flying over the net. It stops suddenly and starts coming back again, disorienting. A magical silence surrounds us in the morning. The shimmering ice and snow all around will leave indelible memories. Around 200 people undergo such a pilgrimage in those 6 weeks each year. Some do it for personal satisfaction, while others are in pursuit of scientific truth. The frequent formation of ice mounds that pile several meters high create considerable obstacles as they make their trek north. The mounds are caused when the ice layers itself. As an Arctic explorer heads toward the North Pole, he does not face a straight, flat, frozen surface such as you would on an ice rink. On the contrary, the explorer must overcome endless obstacles. The ice is either breaking apart to reveal the surface of the sea, or it is colliding with other ice to form mountains of ice. It seems almost unimaginable that anyone could stand on the North Pole, but the first to do it was Sir Wally Herbert on the 6th of April, 1969. That was only 3 months before Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin first set foot on the moon. Those who wish to reach exactly 90 degrees 00 first have to steel themselves with endless patience. You must reconcile that if you fell asleep at the exact position of the North Pole, when you woke up in the morning, you could find yourself completely elsewhere. That can be quite unnerving. Follow this simple example. Now you are headed north. And now you are heading south. The Arctic is one of the few places left in the world that absolutely never loses its individual charm. However, the sad fact is, the Arctic is slowly diminishing in volume. Those who argue for the evidence of global warming often point to the Arctic as one of the best examples of the warming trend. The surface volume of the Arctic has shrunk by 46% in the last 20 years. And, according to some scientists, at its present rate of shrinkage, it could cease to exist in as little as 10 years. However, scientists fail to agree on the degree of the human influence on climate change. Some claim it is impossible to ascertain exactly the damage humans have inflicted, while others remain convinced that there is no doubt as to the enormity and irreversibility of the damage caused by humans. Let us hope that the climatic changes we have been experiencing over the last 50 years are temporary and are not as irreversible as some claim. It is very important that the beauty of the Arctic is able to be admired by generations to come. We must do everything to ensure the legacy of the Arctic continues. Welcome to the Badlands of Alberta, Canada. The English term Badlands is a direct translation of the Lakota Indian word Makoshicha. It marks out a territory subject to great erosion. The resulting terrain proved difficult to traverse for Indians and settlers alike. It was precisely here that the history of the Canadian province of Alberta began to unfold some 4 million years ago. It was during that time that the bottom of the sea began to rise as a result of pressure from inside the Earth. The result of that tectonic energy was the formation of the continent. The unique and peculiar sandstone rock formations locally referred to as the hoodoo provide an exact geological record that scientists from a wide variety of disciplines can rely upon. Here, one observes the individual layers of sediment deposits. Apparently, the dark bits once formed the sea bottom, while the lighter parts come from a period when dinosaurs roamed the local plains. In this area, it is not uncommon for dinosaur fossils to be discovered. It does, however, require patience and knowing where to look. The vicinity of Drumheller is renowned for such findings. Based on the attraction of the fossils, the locals established thriving businesses. It is, however, ironic that in a place known for fossil findings, one cannot purchase a fossil found locally due to the strictly enforced prevailing laws. Any fossil you purchase here will likely have come from the United States or Africa. Fossils are not the only thing of interest found below the surface of this landscape. Another kind of treasure, requiring a different kind of digging, also lies underground. Crude oil and natural gas reserves lie just beneath the surface of the entire province. Thousands of borehole pumps create something like a scene from an old science fiction movie. The economic prosperity resulting from the oil and gas production continuously attracts more and more people to this once desolate country. A gold rush with a twist. The Saskatchewan is one of the mightiest rivers in Canada. It spans never-ending prairies located over 3 Canadian provinces. But right here, we are positioned at its strongest point. The river has 2 shoulders called the North and South Saskatchewan. Its source originates to the west in the province of Alberta in the Rocky Mountains. Both shoulders join in the neighboring province of the same name, and 2,500 kilometers further east, they flow into the Hudson Bay. Why is Alberta also known as the land of wild roses? Maybe it has something to do with this Rocky Mountain valley filled with roses, whose stems seem to explode with every hue of green color and is overshadowed by 4,000-meter-high mountain peaks. It is truly poetry to the eye. Needless to say, the local wilderness is not represented by roses alone. Mountain streams relentlessly cut into the rocky base, creating incredible formations, some of which run to depths in the tens of meters. A more dramatic landscape would be hard to imagine. It's almost as if it emerged from the workshop of a great architect. Everything here has its place and purpose. A valley yields to a snow-capped peak. A canyon vents into a waterfall. What you see right here is the Victoria Iceberg, the source of the crystal clear water that fills Lake Louise. The iceberg was named after Queen Victoria of Great Britain. Lake Louise, on the other hand, was named after Princess Louise Caroline Alberta, who was the fourth daughter of Queen Victoria. It must have been a great pleasure to look after such a stunning territory. The beauty of the local surroundings inspired the Canadians to establish their very first national park here in 1885. Early settlers, who came here seeking to make their fortune mining oil, were also enamored with the wild charm of the Banff National Park. It's hardly surprising. There are innumerable nooks all through these Rocky Mountains, where one can camp and reflect on the captivating and enchanting nature all around you. There's also the likelihood that you'll go days without seeing another human being. Seemingly endless prairies lie to the east of the mountains. This is the kingdom of cowboys and ranchers alike. There are straight trails stretching from one horizon to the next. It is far too easy to lose track in a countryside devoid of all landmarks. In wintertime, getting lost here can often be tragic. These magnificent animals play an important role in the history of this land. These cattle are born and raised for one particular purpose. When they have matured, they are sold at a cattle auction. Millions of families throughout Northern America hungrily await the next shipment of the renowned beefsteaks that come from Alberta. There is no time wasted. These guys surely know their stuff. Knowing how to pay just the right price for these awesome animals is an art that takes considerable talent and a lifetime to learn. Life on a ranch may at first seem rather idyllic. No stressful deadlines, lots of fresh air. Something a lot of us dream of for our retirement. Needless to say, first appearances can be deceiving. Ranches here are gigantic, often as large as a few townships put together. Cattle remain outside all year round. The cows get stabled only in the case of a grave complication, or if they are with calf during a particularly cruel winter. Danny here is just heading out to check up on one of his herds. Danny's father was a cowboy, and Danny expects that his son will one day become the sixth generation of his clan to be in charge of this ranch. 6 years ago, they celebrated the 100th anniversary of the establishment of this ranch. Unfortunately, as they took over the land, they pushed the original inhabitants of the region, the North American Indians, onto designated reservations. The Alexis First Nations Reservation is now the home of the Nakota Sioux tribe. These people are the descendants of the oldest original inhabitants of the American continent. We are currently watching the preparations for their annual powwow festival. The tribe members and invited guests gather here from the whole of North America. They dwell in tents for the duration of the celebration. In the words of the chieftain, Cam Alexis, the people of his nation gather for the powwow here by the sacred lake so that they can honor the memory of their ancestors through meditation, music, and dance. Their folk costumes are surprisingly colorful, but each tribe has created its own national colors. As the powwow draws to an end, the chieftains retire into the ceremonial tent where they attempt to establish contact with their ancestors. This is something we sadly, yet understandably cannot witness. For now, we remain in Canada and head off to Quebec. If you prefer greenery to the grayness of the big city life, then Quebec is just the place for you. The population density in this province is one of the lowest in the world. Here, Mother Nature rules. The thick, impermeable woods, the abundance of lakes, bogs, and the accompanying insect world are ever present. In fact, Here, the 21st century seems but a supposition. Villages and towns tend to be built on the riverbanks. This village has been built by the river Saguenay, which flows into the Lac Saint-Jean. The bubbling of omnipresent streams, with their irresistible crystal-clear waters, offer wonderful opportunities to enjoy relaxing holidays. Summer here does not bring much rainfall, yet somehow the rivers don't dry out. Is it magic? Not exactly, but it is rather magical at that. What you see here isn't a river, it's a fjord. Here you can witness the alternating high and low tide even though we are 100 kilometers inland. Fjord Saguenay is the southernmost fjord on the North Hemisphere. At the end of the last ice age, a glacier carved this fjord out of rock. The Saguenay National Park spreads along its entire length, proof that the people of Quebec truly cherish their nature. Here, the protection of nature is a question of national pride. The first settlers arrived in Quebec literally empty-handed. All they had in their possession were weapons and some agricultural utensils. Their survival required cunning and bravery to somehow tame the wilderness. The vision of a lucrative fur trade was the greatest lure for the French. And so they sailed over what they called the Great Puddle, motivated by the empty treasury of the French king. The French king at the time abolished the prohibition of wearing fur by non-nobles. This one act caused the demand for fur in France to become voracious and set the circumstances for developing the Canadian fur trade. The fur trade, however, proved profitable only until the middle of the 19th century. From that time on, it became necessary for the local settlers to look around for an alternate source of income. Three currents come together in the local waters. One originates from the St. Lawrence River, and another one originates from the Saguenay Fjord. The third one originates from the sea. Such a medley results in a bountiful food supply, ultimately attracting whales from far and near. The Saguenay Marine Park Saint Laurent is the only project concerned with the protection of whales. The marine park offers some of the most comprehensive studies of whale species you would find anywhere in the world. Should you wish to see whales firsthand, though, you must abandon the safe haven of dry land and take off for the great wide open sea. It is possible to sight 5 different kinds of whales here. But there is only one species of whale that remains here throughout the year, the beluga. Unfortunately, the whales are so scarce that each one is known to the researchers by its name. They are distinguished by their characteristic dorsal fins. These beautiful cetaceans are one of the most endangered species in the world. We all have a responsibility to see that they are not hunted to extinction. Our journey to the miraculous nooks of our planet comes to an end, for now. On the next exploration of our compelling and bountiful planet Earth, we will visit 3 unique islands: Madeira, Taiwan, and Bali. Even though these islands are thousands of kilometers apart, they have one thing in common. All 3 islands were created by ancient volcanic action that shaped their landscapes into truly wild and unbelievable beauty. You can't help but be impressed by the steep cliffs, high mountains, and unique climate.